Hello and welcome to Tech for Non-Techies, the only podcast that demystifies the fast-growing technology sector. I'm your host, Sophia Matveeva, Chicago-based MBA and tech entrepreneur. My aim here is to give you the skills, knowledge and confidence to find opportunities in the tech sector, whether that's through founding a company, getting a dream job, or bringing a fresh perspective to your work. Hello, smart people. How are you doing today? I've just recovered from my first weekend of fun in ages. My friend from Paris came to visit me in the French Riviera this weekend. The weather was amazing. We even got slightly burnt. I had a swim in the Mediterranean Sea and we drank rosé, and then we drank Prosecco, and then we drank champagne, and then it all got very hazy. And I can't tell you anymore. But what I can tell you is that I am not used to this kind of thing anymore. But I have to train my liver because I'm going back to London in mid-June. And if you've been to London, you know that it's a place where people like a good time. So, gotta get ready. I normally live in London, but I have been escaping the city during the pandemic in the south of France. And now that London is opening up, I want to be there. So if you are in London this summer, we will have meetups and events for Tech for Non-Techies, and I can't wait to see them. I'll tell you what we have coming up once we plan it. My accountant actually offered to pick me up from the airport when I land, and I think that's weird. I hope he's not going to tell me that I'm going to jail. And if I am, I hope it's a Danish jail. I watched a documentary recently about Danish jails and they look pretty nice. They actually look nicer than the dorms I lived in as a student. Speaking of students, here's your segue into tech. Speaking of students, you are going to hear from one of my MBA classmates in this episode, Justin Xiao. Justin is the Chief Operating Officer for Southeast Asia and Australia at Railsbank. Railsbank is a fintech company that helps businesses make payments around the world using their APIs. Justin spoke to our members live and answered their questions earlier this year, and you'll hear an excerpt from our discussion in this episode. You will learn about how money moves around the world from one account to another and how technology is making this process cheaper and easier. If you want to learn about APIs and get some good practical examples, this is a super great episode. Welcome, Justin.
Great to be on, and thank you so much, Sophia, for the opportunity. And great to connect again. And this is the power of the Booth Network. Getting access to people around the world and discussing these topics and making sure that we're continuously learning. So that's the Booth spirit. So what I do, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Railsbank in Southeast Asia and Australia. I'm based here in Singapore.
And so what does, I have so many questions. So what does Railsbank do? Because I think most of our audiences are in the UK, in the US, and I know you've done some work in the UK, but I don't think it's very well known here. So what is Railsbank?
Yeah, Railsbank is a leading banking as a service platform. We believe in empowering anyone, whether it's a brand, whether it's a fintech startup, to be a fintech with 5 lines of code. So they can come onto a Railsbank platform, they can prototype, they can launch, and they can scale. Then once their solution gets adoption in the market, they can look to lift and ship their solution to any of the 4 continents that we operate on. So that is US, UK, Europe, Southeast Asia, and Australia.
So when Justin says ship, it is a term that techies use. It doesn't actually involve any maritime vessels, so I wanted to clarify that. So I use the term shipping a product, and I do sail, but that's nothing to do with it. So shipping a product means literally just getting it out into users' hands. So out of your head or out of your product team's heads, out of their computers, into the hands of your actual users. And honestly, I don't know much about fintech, so I'm very excited about this because I'm hoping that Justin, you you will teach me. So, when this fintech company allows financial organizations to scale, like how does it do that?
Using the example of Uber. So when Uber started their service, they're a ride-sharing platform, and getting into the gig economy, and they built a superior experience, a payment experience. You get out of the car, your payment is made. They inspired many other companies to build financial services into their product, into their user journey. So again, this was back in 2015, 2016. And at that time, it would have been very difficult to do. You have to go to a bank. You have to find a financial services company that allowed you to enable these financial service user journeys. And what Railsbank is doing now is it's doing all the plumbing. Any fintech, any brand who want to enable financial services in their user journey, they come to Railsbank, they access our products, our banking as a service product, our card as a service product, our operations as a service product. They're able to build that fintech journey into for their consumers to use and leverage. And some use cases that I'll reference to your listeners based in UK. WageStream is one of our customers in UK, and WageStream is a financial well-being platform, and they look to improve the financial health of people at work. So their customers include employers like NHS, Bupa, Holiday Inn, BrewDog, and they offer WageStream to their employees. So they're giving them more power over their pay with a set of tools to track, access, save, and manage earnings in real time. So as part of that platform, they allow employers to offer earned wage access. So employees can access their wages once they've earned them throughout the month. So there's no advance credit or interest is involved. And it's proven through data that it leads to less financial stress and less reliance on predatory forms of lending. So again, this take the example during COVID for all the NHS workers. They're they're offering WageStream. They don't need to worry about getting their financial health. They're stressed enough providing health services, and they know that they can get early access to the wage. What a lot of people are doing overtime, so they know that, hey, look, when I have done overtime, I can get early access to my wage. So Railsbank powers all of that.
And how would that work? So because I do understand that business model of essentially, if you are a nurse in the NHS right now, basically you're a holy person as far as I'm concerned, and
yep.
Instead of waiting for the 28 days to get your full salary for the entire month, you could literally draw out maybe 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, which saves us all from that. Okay, splurging and then saving. So that I understand. Like I think that's a fantastic thing to do. But what does Railsbank what does Railsbank do between the nurse who wants to withdraw her money early and the NHS, and then there's this other company as well. So I'm confused.
Yeah. So maybe I can talk more broadly. And so a customer, such as WageStream, they will connect to the Railsbank platform via our customer APIs to access our financial products through what we call product rails. So again, our platform is driven by simple APIs, and our customer is building that service. So we're essentially issuing ledgers for our customers. So whether they're in Great Britain pounds or whether it's in Singapore dollars, and those ledgers are connected to the UK Faster Payments Network, and so they're able to send and receive money through faster payments to any bank account in the UK. So again, what we're doing essentially is sending money from that nurse to his or her bank account.
Okay, so we're sending the money from the NHS to the nurse's bank. You are essentially the, let's call it, okay, so there is the money in the NHS, and then there is the nurse. And, in the olden days, I don't know, you would have had a person who would literally give her wage. Whereas with the age of technology, we now have these rails, which essentially that's Railsbank, that allows the money to go from the organization, to this case, to the person. Essentially, it's like the Eurotunnel. Is that correct? Am I putting it?
Yeah.
I can
no, absolutely. So we build the infrastructure for financial services. We're an enabler for financial services. So that's a great analogy in that we're enabling access to very simple financial services. And so, being able to send money, receive money, spend money, you're able to build many use cases on top of that. So essentially, from the nurse to the bank, to his or her bank account, all it is sending money.
Yeah, I mean, anything that helps us make more money, I'm totally pro that. So I'm then interested because you mentioned this word APIs, and for people who've been listening to the podcast, you guys will know that I recently did an episode on what APIs are. But if you haven't listened to it, we've got Justin who can tell us what APIs are. So what are they?
Yeah. So API stands for Application Program Interface, and essentially it's bridging from one system to another system. And so in the banking world, if you're an app developer, you're able to connect to the bank and control your accounts. So you're able to programmatically engage with your bank through your application, so you can deliver, again, the experience to your customer, and you're able to control that customer journey.
So for people who are not familiar with banking, just aside from being clients, a good example of an API is when you log into something with Facebook or you log into something with Twitter. So basically, an API is just a short snippet of code from one company that you can put into your company. So Justin earlier gave the example of Uber. The original Uber, so the original app, actually was very, very low on its own technology. It literally used other people's technology. So they used Google Maps, which they still use. So Google Maps to essentially map so you can work out where your little car is. Then PayPal for payments processing. And I forgot what, I think you could also log in with Facebook so they could get all of your data then. And essentially, Uber, they needed to have somebody to put the APIs together. So you do need to write some code. But essentially, an API is the gateway between one product, and it could be your product and another product. So every time that you see Google Maps being used within something else, or maybe the weather app, how in some apps or on some websites, it will say the weather around you. And that means that, usually that company wouldn't have their own team of meteorologists figuring out what the weather is going to be. They're usually pulling that data from the BBC or the Weather Channel. And the way they do it is they have this snippet of code that communicates between their website with their application and, say, BBC weather. And so Railsbank is an example of essentially how they've got their own set of tools, which they have created. So they've got their own developers, they've created their tools. But what APIs allow them to do is they allow them to have customers. Because as we always talk about here, is that technology alone, code alone, that's not a business. So that's a product, but that's not a business. So APIs are what allow people to access the product. So APIs are essentially the gateway that allow you to access the product, which means that Railsbank can be a business and have customers and make money. So it's interesting how the concept of APIs can be used,
Yeah.
yes, to link your technology, but also to get your brand in front of people.
Yeah, absolutely, and doing it at a low cost, right? So
That's important.
back to 4 or 5 years ago, if a fintech, take Uber as an example, when they got started, they needed the funding, they needed the relationship, the partnership, to get that off and rolling. So with platforms like Railsbank, we make it a lot easier for our customers to consume our services. So our API is our UI UX, and we make that as seamless, as easy to understand for our customers. So whether you're a CEO, your product manager, you're able to come onto our platform, you're able to read through our API documentation, and we make it very plain, human-centric language, which is very important, right? So again, you may not be the person who's writing code, but you may be the CEO, the founder who needs to understand, okay, what can this platform do for me? How is it sending money? How is it receiving money? And how do I, again, we talk about cards, right? And this become super complicated. How would you issue cards? And we make that possible. So, and we have people from the industry who can, simplify for our customers what it means. So, we take the complexity out of financial services, and we make it consumable for whether, again, product manager, your marketing manager, or you're the founder.
Interesting, yeah, because we have a few non-technical founders or product managers who are essentially building new products, or people who are working in innovation at large companies, and the whole thing that they're doing is that they're building new products. And honestly, if you are a founder with just you're bootstrapping, or you've got a little bit of money, or even if you're working at a large organization, the budget you're going to be given is not going to be infinite. So everybody has a finite budget, and you have to work out what you're going to spend your money on. And the thing you will spend most of your money on is creating your own proprietary code. So creating your own thing, which only you can do. So the more tools you can get from other people to support you doing the thing, the better off you'll be. So for example, I work with an accounting firm. They do my accounts. I could theoretically do the accounts myself. I was forced to take accounting at business school. It was my least favorite class. The thing is, if I wasn't paying my accounting firm to do the thing that I need to do, then I wouldn't be able to actually turn up, speak to people like Justin, teach at London Business School, and do all the things that actually only I can do, and only I can create the kind of teaching content that I create. So it's very much like essentially think of APIs as a way to outsource something. And what's fantastic about them is that sometimes you can outsource for free. So if you're building in login with Facebook, that means you're collecting your users' email addresses for free because Facebook is doing that for you. A lot of APIs, a lot of companies, and Justin, I'd love to dive into this with you, but a lot of companies, they would have a startup tier for their API service. So if you log in, you connect and you only use it this much, it will either be free or it will be a small amount. And then when you get bigger and bigger, you're going to have to pay. So for example, Uber's bill for paying Google right now is astronomical. I forgot what it is. You can Google it. But literally, when Uber was first building Uber and they were using Google, it's free because that's the whole thing. In order for people to want to use your API, it needs to be free usually, or it needs to be very low cost to build it in. But once people are using it, Google has to pay to maintain Google Maps. So once people are using it, that means Uber has to rent. So generally API costs go up. So is that the same thing at Railsbank, or do you have a different model?
Yeah, no, it's the spirit is the same, right? We're enabling a founder or a business to prototype quite easily. So they have something they want to test in market. They don't need to, spend upfront costs to connect to partners. They're able to come to a platform, again, prototype their solution, bring it to market, see if it's meeting their objectives. And if it doesn't work, it's they can shut it down, right? We're not we're not charging them upfront. We're charged, and I'm not. It's based on usage. So you pay what you consume, and you don't pay what you don't need.
I thought that was really interesting. It's exactly this kind of innovation that's shaking up old financial institutions, which I think is super exciting. If you enjoyed this episode and learnt something new, it would be super helpful to me if you gave this podcast a rating and a review. I read and reread and screenshot all of the reviews. They do honestly make me feel so warm and fuzzy. So I'd love to hear from you. Leave this podcast a rating and a review and give me some joy. And if this floats your boat and you want more, then come and join us as a member at Tech for Non-Techies. Our membership is your best friend in tech. Every week we have live discussions and masterclasses, and you get monthly member meetups and Q&A with me, and learning notes on key aspects of technology like AI, product management, and the app economy. So what is not to like? Nothing I tell you. So check us out on techfornontechies.co/membership. That's it for now, smart people. Have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you next week. Ciao.